Well, the interesting thing is that we have, over the last couple years, actually shifted a significant amount of how we're communicating with our donors and potential donors to online strategies, and in fact have built an e-campaign system that is really a direct marketing campaign that we use within our workplace efforts. So when we segmented, we were able to build in and upgrade that system to be a lot better at targeting certain folks for certain messages and not having kind of a one-size-fits-all ask regardless of what somebody's potential was to give at a certain level or somebody's interest in what the cultural sector is doing. I will say we do spend a lot of time as well working kind of behind the firewalls of some of the major companies that run workplace campaigns for us to work within their intranets and their own communication, online communication strategies because of our kind of inability to communicate directly into their systems. So it's actually paid off a lot in the companies that we've been able to work more in-depthly with to allow us to be better at communicating with their employees. I would say outside the campaign, we still have a lot of, or outside the workplace campaigns, we still have a lot of potential to fine-tune how we are communicating beyond direct mail strategies and face-to-face strategies, but to do a better job of aligning a lot of the emails that we capture and our social media strategy to try to unlock prospects and potential donors in that way. So I see that as kind of where we'll be investing more and more of our time as we learn from the workplace campaign segmentation that we've done. With the online listening program, we're a little bit of a unique animal in that so much of our fundraising happens to people that are at work because we do workplace campaigns. And we have surveying that we do periodically, some of which is kind of immediate after someone gives a gift, but others are communicated throughout the year. And I know that's not what you're asking about. I think you're envisioning a much more in-depth two-way conversation with the donor for us to get feedback and help change how we might talk with them. And I would say there's some challenges in investing in that and executing on that because of the relationship we have within the companies and the workplace campaigns. There's only so much face time we can get with their potential employees, and I think there's opportunity there, and we're always kind of weighing how much do we have in terms of resources and time to invest in a more robust system, and is that what our customer really wants? Is the person that's giving us $25 through the workplace campaign really want an in-depth conversation for us, or do they just want really solid communication and feedback on the impact of the dollars that they're giving? And so I think it's a great question, one that kind of comes up behind our walls around how we might tackle this. But I would say we've not, probably to the extent of what you're asking, really engaged in that in-depth program, listening program. In terms of online content, we are, when I look at, if I were to characterize us as a marketing organization, we are very direct marketing in the sense that we go into workplaces, we communicate to the employees both in a physical form but also by email and other ways of communicating, and then run those campaigns, and that actually accounts for about 99% of the individual donors that give to the Arts and Science Council. Our messaging and kind of core purpose for being during the times when we are out fundraising heavily in the community, we do align those messaging and content to our website. But I would say that we have struggled with both mining for potential new donors and generating significant kind of, I would say, revenue for people just kind of coming to our site and being inspired by the mission. Part of which is that in any fundraising, it's hard if you don't have an understanding and brand that people easily know what the dollars are going for, like Red Cross in Haiti. Very easy message for people to understand. They can take action quickly. Arts and Science Council in Charlotte requires a little bit more of explanation. And so we've haven't invested a significant amount of money in trying to tie our web-based content to some of the segmentation and direct messaging we've done within the workplace campaigns. But I will say we are working on a project right now of building a site that will be a way for organizations, cultural organizations, to post projects and donors to be able to give directly to those projects, which I will say will have a outside the workplace, very direct to customer based strategy, and will be all about segmenting content both in a direct messaging perspective but also online. So we'll have lots more to talk about hopefully 6 to 8 months from now when we are launching that project. What I will say is, and maybe just a reminder too, that we're a tiny shop and in the grand scheme of things a fairly modest sized nonprofit. So we kind of integrate in pieces, and I would say we don't have a full-fledged strategy around this. But for example, we've done a lot better of understanding transactional data that comes through online giving to be able to tag that and analyze it and use that in our strategies moving forward. I would say kind of beyond the transactions that we receive as donors and the information that people give us during kind of that transaction period, we haven't gathered a whole lot of other information kind of from the web beyond that. And I think we're doing a fairly good job in monitoring kind of the social media universe in terms of what are people saying about the cultural sector, understanding the conversations that are happening, but we're doing that on a shoestring budget, and I'd say we've not done a real in-depth strategy around trying to capture that and understand trends. It's been more of, hey, let's make sure we understand what's going on, and when something surfaces, let's jump in, make sure we're part of that, and when we can play a role. So there's lots that we want to do, but I think we're being smart in getting a little bit more sophisticated, using that information and testing whether it's generating more resources for us, and if it is, then we invest more and do it in a really thoughtful way. So we're moving along on that perspective. I think this is a great question, considering that so much of our giving happens in workplace campaigns. This has been a big issue for us, and I think for any nonprofit, regardless of resources, people are willing to give. They might not be able to give as much, but it's absolutely important that you differentiate yourself into why your organization is important enough for someone to give that $25 or $50 gift. And I think for us, we've spent a lot of time understanding what are the priorities of the community and our donors, and making sure that we are showing them that we are focusing on those issues and that their dollars are going to help make that happen. Great example is our major focus on re-establishing the education programs for the art, science, and history organizations that we support in CMS. We had a huge drawback of funding that was going for that purpose in the last couple of years. we heard loud and clear from our constituents that this was a major priority, so we're putting a huge focus on that this year. And so all of our campaign strategy materials and messaging is focusing on that effort. It's not the only thing we're doing, but it is the lead, most important thing that we as an institution feel we can do this year. So it's trying to make those, I think, very direct connections to say, hey, make no mistake about it, if you give this gift, regardless of size, regardless if it's a lot less than what you gave in past years, it's going to make a big difference. And hoping that folks still remember that they can be generous in a very small dollar amount. It's not always the huge multi-million-dollar gifts that you see in the paper or that people talk about that make the difference. It's really strength in numbers, and I think Arts and Science Council is a great example of that, with over 30,000 donors, and there is a significant amount of those donors that are giving $50 or less, and they make up a big chunk of how we make things happen in the community.